Patriots sweep school board elections throughout the great state of Texas over the weekend, all as the GOP is leading the Democrats in early voting in key states. We're going to look at how Patriot candidates crushed woke school board members over the weekend. We're going to see how such victories indicate a radically changing Republican Party for the better. And stick them to the very end of this video when I'll show you the latest indicators suggesting a massive red wave for the upcoming midterms, one that promises to absolutely shatter the Democratic Party. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you. As always, I am your daily fake news antidote, so come on in to your Patriot Professor's Den, where I help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy, turbulent, and as I like to say, increasingly anti-woke times. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we dive in here, let me ask you, how do you think leftists have been sleeping of late? Do you see them resting comfortably at night in their beds, or do you see them up late, panicked, unable to sleep as they watch their woke world implode right before them? Well, obviously the latter. And so, while leftists are panicking late at night, you, the victorious patriot, can have the best sleep of your life with the one and only My Pillow, designed by the Patriot of Patriots, Mike Lindell. In fact, you can support Mike and get the best sleep of your life with the lowest prices in their history with code Turley. So, for example, usually the classic My Pillow is $69.98, but if you use my code Turley, you can get your own classic My Pillow for just $19.98, and that applies to over 200 products in their catalog. So don't wait. Click on that link below. Get one for yourself. Get one for the Patriot in your life. Let's support Mike and My Pillow, and let's get the best sleep of our lives, all as woke leftists are losing theirs. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. The state of Texas has once again proven that it has absolutely no intention of turning blue anytime soon. If you didn't know, Texas had a massive number of school board elections over this past weekend. There were elections all throughout the entire state, and I am ecstatic to report that anti-CRT patriots, anti-mask patriots, anti-woke patriots stormed the school boards and swept the elections. The sheer amount of victories were utterly breathtaking, and it's a clear sign that the Democrats are going to get demolished in November. So let's take a look at what happened this weekend, shall we? On Saturday, May 7th, voters went to the polls across the state in Texas to vote on their school boards. These were highly contested elections, and far-left local media outlets in Texas, which I got to say is such an oxymoron. I don't know how these local media outlets stay in business. It's like what I see here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Lancaster is right in my backyard, and Lancaster is one of the most conservative areas in the country, and yet its single local newspaper is a pathetic woke leftist rag. It's absolute woke trash. But regardless, the far-left local media outlets in Texas were all scared witless about the amount of patriot organizing that went into these elections over the last several weeks, and the results speak for themselves. Conservative patriots absolutely dominated the school board elections across the state. Let's start in Fort Worth. In 4 suburban Fort Worth school districts, Carroll, Grapevine, Keller, and Mansfield districts, patriot parents won all 10 contested seats. 10 out of 10. The candidates were all backed by the conservative parents organization called Southlake Families PAC. It's an organization dedicated to ridding Texas's school boards of woke members and replacing them with solid conservative patriots who represent the values, interests, concerns of parents rather than that of the interests of the far left, the lunatic left that has thus far taken over school boards across the country. But of course, who are now all collapsing. And collapse they did. Like I said, 10 seats that were open, all of which were won by conservative patriot candidates. It was an absolute blowout, but it was just the beginning. All 15 candidates, backed by the anti-woke 1776 Project, won their school board elections across 3 Texas counties, Tarrant, Collin, and Harris. Now, that's a mic drop right there, all 15, but it kept going. Patriot candidates opposed to CRT and mask mandates won in Frisco, Clear Creek, Grapevine, Southlake, Spring Branch, Richardson, and you're going to love this one, Conservatives actually flipped the school board in an Austin district. Now, Austin, Texas is, of course, notorious for being a deeply blue part of the Lone Star State. So, for example, Zuckerberg's Meta moved out there. But even in Austin, the Dripping Springs School Board was flipped. They've gone from Democrat to Republican. And perhaps the cherry on top of all this winning is the president of the Texas Association of School Boards got voted out. Now, if you remember, the Association of School Boards, the National Association, these are the state associations that sent their letter to our joke of an Attorney General, Merrick Garland, demanding that he treat angry parents at school board meetings like domestic terrorists. Remember that? Well, this guy, Jim Rice, the president of the Texas Association of School Boards, he's a huge CRT advocate, totally woke. Well, you'll be delighted to know that he was just fired from his position as president of the Texas Association of School Boards. He lost to a pro-parental rights patriot named Rick Garcia. So it was without question an amazing weekend in Texas for sure. I think U.S. Senate candidate Mark Masur said it best. If 2010 was the year of the Tea Party, then 2022 will be the year of the parent party. And I think he's absolutely right on that. And that's what's freaking Democrats out. They are freaking out that the Republican Party is actually becoming the default parent party. We saw this with the Glenn Youngkin gubernatorial election in Virginia back in November of last year. We talked about how Youngkin won 56% of those voters who were self-described as parents. They all believed that the Democratic Party had abandoned them, their kids, their concerns. And this shift alone has the potential of turning the GOP into one of the most massive political coalitions ever seen in American politics. Keep in mind, this is changing the politics even in the bluest of the blue areas like San Francisco, right? Just a few months back, we did a video on parents coming out in droves in a recall effort to vote out three of the most radical leftists on the San Francisco School Board. All three of them were voted out with 70% of the vote. Miranda Devine of the New York Post tweeted out after those elections, "The red wave is coming." I mean, if San Francisco voters are rebelling against their own most radically woke school board members, no woke leftist is safe today. And so that leads us to the next big story of the day. There really does seem to be a red wave of unprecedented magnitude forming throughout the nation. But first, take a look at my latest shirt, hot off the press, celebrating woke implosion of Disney with my Wicked Mickey. See, it's Mickey and Wicked underneath. You see that? Well, you can get yours by clicking on that link below and visiting our super awesome merch store. We've got our brand new Ultra MAGA t-shirts as well, celebrating Dementia Joe's deplorables moment. This is a limited time offer. They're not going to be around for long, so make sure to click on that link below. It's a great way to both support this channel as well as spread Patriot hope far and wide. Get one for yourself. Get two for the Patriot in your life. Click on that link below or go to store.turleytalks.com. That's store.turleytalks.com. All right, let's take a look at this. With upcoming primaries, Republican enthusiasm is absolutely stomping the Democrats in the key state of Georgia. Republican early voting is outnumbering Democrats by 20,000 votes. Thus far, Democrats have just cast over 50,000 votes, while Republican voters have cast over 71,000 ballots, suggesting a massive enthusiasm gap between the two parties. It's almost a 60-40 split. 60% of the votes are Republican, while only 40% are Democrat. We saw the very same thing happen in the Ohio primaries last week when J.D. Vance won. The Republican turnout beat out the Democrat turnout by a factor of 2 to 1. There were over 1 million Republican voters who came out for the primaries versus just over 500,000 Democrats. Again, it was an astonishing turnout discrepancy. We saw the same thing in Texas a few weeks back. And we're seeing it with these school board elections, together with this turnout, a red wave like we've never seen on the horizon. It's so bad for Democrats. The Babylon Bee ran the headline, "Polls indicate even the dead may vote Republican in November." Even CNN is having to admit this. Their own polling shows that Republicans are leading by 13 points in midterm enthusiasm. Nearly 60% of Republicans are fired up for the midterms. Barely 40% of the Democrats are. I mean, gang, this is absolutely huge. Even the dead may vote Republican. So the combination of election enthusiasm with actual election results like we saw over the weekend in Texas suggests that the Democrats are in for a massive thumping in these upcoming midterms. So let's stay the course, let's stay determined, and let's get out there and shatter the Democrat Party like never before. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video on a woke teacher in Florida getting fired. It looks like the woke purge in Florida schools has indeed begun. You are not going to want to miss it. So make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.